Hello, my name is Andrew Welch, and this is my level. We're going to go talk about mechanics actually today. So right off the bat, we had to set up a main controller here, or a player controller here, which I call the main player controller. And so when we push the menu button, we're going to remove all the widgets from the viewport. Then we're going to go ahead and cast to the first player, and we're going to get their character movement so that we can set it to none. The reason that we're doing this, this is actually a bug fix. I have lower levels on my map, and anytime I would change to the menu, it actually loads a different map, and the player would fall through the first map trying to come back. So that's why that's there. Here we have the world name menu, which we are pulling from. We're using that as a reference, and we're going to get streaming level. We're going to see if the level is visible, and if it's true, we're going to come up here. And then we're going to get the player camera manager. We're going to start a fade, so that way it gives the levels some time to load in and for the other level to hide itself. That's what the delay here is for as well. Then we're going to load the stream level by name. This is how we load up the menu. This is also a reference to the menu, and we set should be visible to false. Then we're going to go over here, and we're going to get our actor, and this is in order to hide, because the when it shows to the when it switches to the menu, it shows a model. It doesn't show the actual player character, and we don't want the player character running around in the background. So we're going to set actor hidden. I mean, they can't really run around anyway because we disabled them, but we want to set them to hidden so that way we can't see their model. And we're going to get player character here, player controller. We're going to disable the input so they can't walk around, and then we're going to show mouse cursor so that way we can actually click on stuff while we're in the menu. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to set input mode to game and UI. That's so that way we can press the enter button and switch back to gameplay, as well as click on things with the mouse. Down here, we're doing the opposite. We're getting the player manager. We're starting the camera fade. Same thing here. We're just fading out, giving it time. And instead, let's see, the menu we're going to set to should be visible. And then, let's see, unload stream level by name. Oh, right. And then we unload it so that way we can go back to the regular level. We get player here. We set view target to blend. So what this is doing is set view target with blend. I believe it sets to the player controller camera. So then we're going to get the player character here. We're going to make them visible again by setting hidden to false. We're going to re-enable their input so they can walk around and stuff. We're going to cast to them. We're going to set their character movement back to walking again because that we set it to none, and so they don't fall through the floor. This way they can go back into walking, and then we're going to turn the cursor off and set input mode back to game only because we don't need to have a mouse cursor clicking on things. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the first person character, and we have a lot here. So we're going to get the, let's see, at the event graph. Oh, we do have something at the event graph. So right here, we're actually going to get the input action fire. So basically when the left mouse button is clicked, we will be casting to the BP weapon parent. And we're going to use we're going to get a reference to the first gun, and then we're going to pull off there, and we're actually going to get a reference to the child actor, which is, because this is just the parent class for the guns, and then this is the actual rifle that our character is using. So since we're pushing the button, we're going to go ahead and call start shooting, and then once we're released, we're going to call stop shooting. So what exactly do those do? So we'll go ahead and we're going to jump around a little bit. So we got start shooting right here. So this is a custom event. When it's called, it will check to see if the ammo is equal to 0. If it is not, then it will... Oh, if it is equal to 0, sorry, it will automatically reload. That's right. And reloading is a thing we'll look into in a bit. If it is not true, then it will just fire a bullet. And then it will set timer by a function name. Oh, this is to set the fire rate, I believe. Set firing timer. So I believe this is in... Fire bullet, yes, and this is used to set the fire rate. I think that's so we can customize it for the... Oh, right. Okay, I remember what this is. So this is to add spread. So the longer that the gun is being held, the more spread that is added, and so the less accurate it is. And then this resets it back to 0. So that way, if you stop firing, your accuracy returns back to 0. And then this is the setup gun parts. This doesn't really matter. I could go through all this, but this is actually something that we're not really using. Yeah, there's not really reason to go into it, but it is there. Okay, so we'll go back to here, and we're going to go ahead and look at reload. So in the reload function, what we're doing here is we're using a branch to first check to see if the gun has enough ammo in it. So we're checking the clip size and the ammo. If the ammo is greater than the clip size, we're going to go ahead and continue. The next thing over here is we're setting the ammo total. So this is actually, this is for the total amount of ammo that the player has. For that, we're going to get the clip size. We're going to subtract how much ammo, and then we're going to get the ammo total and subtract that from this formula right here. And we're going to set the new ammo total, and then we're going to plug that into call ammo, update ammo counter. So this is actually what updates the widget itself. Here's the clip size. We're going to set that, and we're going to update the ammo widget for that as well. Fire bullet, we see, so can we fire the weapon first? That is a function right here, which is a pretty simple function. It's just checking to see if we have enough ammo. If it's greater than 0, then we can fire. If not, then we cannot fire. Calculate firing time. Is this also? It is. We set up a lot of functions. So we got calculating fire time. We're getting world delta seconds. Okay, so this is what's checking the, or it's changing the accuracy based on how long the firing time has reached. So it's getting world delta seconds, it's adding firing time to it, and then it's setting itself in order to keep accumulating until it is done firing. That's that. And then we're going to go over here. We're going to do a line trace by channel. We're pulling it from the gun mesh socket, actually. And that's going to be where we start. And then in order to actually create a line trace itself, we're going to get the player camera. We're going to get the camera location and camera rotation. And for the location, we are actually going to, so actually for the rotation, I should say, we're going to get the forward vector, and then we're going to get a random unit vector in cone in degrees. This is to add the variation in accuracy. So here's the accuracy. We're going to start at 1. We're going to minus 0.5, and then we're going to clamp it so that way we have a limit so we don't keep going. We have a firing time here. This is how long we've been holding the trigger. We're going to multiply that by the result here, and then I think we multiply it by this 15 as well. Yeah. And that's the max amount of spread that we can get. Basically, that's as bad as it gets, and then it's limited. And we plug that in. Then we multiply that by the range, which is the distance that we want for the bullets to actually fly, or the gun to actually fire. And then we're going to add that to the camera location, and that's how we get where we want our bullets to end for the line trace. We got a sequence here, so that way the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the ammo, we're going to subtract it by 1, and we're going to set the new ammo, and then we're going to update the ammo counter. So this is basically every time the gun shoots, we're going to update the ammo counter. Calculate damage. So calculate damage, did we go in here? So player characters, we're going to get the crit chance, we're going to get the strength. Down here, the gun's base damage is damage minus 0.2, plus 0.2, and then we get a random float in range. So that's how we add some variety to the amount of damage that we're dealing. We're going to multiply that by 1.5, and I think it's a random chance because we crit chance plus crit chance, random bool with weight. Yeah, so crit chance is 1.5, crit chance is 0.1. Okay, so it adds here to increase it, and then it randomizes whether it's going to happen or not. I believe select float. Yeah, so if this actually does get randomized, I believe we end up sending a critical attack versus just a regular attack. I say I believe because I followed a Ryan Laley tutorial for this, so I was learning as I was going, but I need to go over a lot of this to remember what I did. So I think that's pretty much everything for the gun. Yeah. All right, and then we have the dummy here. So the dummy is basically what's going to be firing, what rewards players and takes damage. So inputs, we have a random integer in range 1 to 3, and we have a delay here. Okay. So this is actually for the shooting range itself. So we have the dummy starting off as hidden in the game for the shooting range, and then this random integer is going to count between 1 to 3 seconds and put that in for the delay, or 1 to 3 ticks or whatever, and then it's going to make them appear. It's going to make their mesh visible and their collision interactable. So that way they all, and it's 1 to 3, so that way they all kind of pop up at random times or relatively random times. And then all we're going to do here is we're going to delay. We're going to make them we're going to do a random delay between 1 and 3 seconds. We're going to make them disappear, and then we're going to do it again. We're going to make them we're going to just make them disappear right here. Sorry. And then we have another random delay here just to add some more randomness. we have that. And then spawn loot. If the health of the dummy is less than or equal to 0, we're going to go ahead and get a data table row with their names on it. So we only have 2 entries right here for the currency. We have coin and ticket. We have the row names, and we have the amount and the tag. So that's what's calling right here. And then it's going to get the last index, and it's going to give a random integer in range, which I believe is, oh yeah, this is just 2, so, or 0 and 1 basically. And then it's going to get that value randomly, so it'll randomly spit out either a ticket or a coin. We get the actor transform, and we spawn it on the actor itself, and then we reset their health back to 200, and their health is already set at 200. Or, oh, their health is set at 500. Okay, well, that's a bug. So the next thing we want to look at is... So right here is the shooting gallery button. This just basically has an interact with. If you walk up to it and press E, it will get the player's character. It will see if you can interact with it. This is so that way you can't keep putting coins into the game while it's still running. So that's what that is doing. Here we're going to check for the currency coins, and we're going to see if it's greater or equal to 5. If it is, then we can play the game. If not, then we cannot play the game, which there should be a print string or a UI to tell you that you need more coins here. Yeah, this is wrong. This is supposed to be plugged in here. Yeah, so here we're actually checking to see if it can be interacted with. And then after pulling this, and after the player does spend their 5 tokens, we're going to subtract those tokens from the total currency of tokens or coins, and we're going to set that back up here. Here we're going to get the currency for tickets, and we're going to set that just to update it, because anytime we update the widget, we have to do both of them because they're on the same widget. And then here's the print string to say that you need more coins. That should be a UI, but it is what it is. Call update currency counters. Okay, so that just updates the widgets. And then call game started. So this sends out a message letting us know that the game has started. And I believe that's also what sets can interact with to false until the game finishes, and then it sets it back to true, so you can put more coins into it. So that's it for that. So another thing that we have here is the inventory component, which essentially runs the entire inventory system. So the first thing we have is, I don't actually have the event available because the event doesn't actually have anything in it. There's nothing there. Okay, so let's get into the inventory component. So the event graph actually doesn't have anything on it, but if we go to add to inventory, we have a few functions here that are running. So we have the add to inventory function, which is going to be calling the can be stacked macro. If we go in here real quick, we have an input with a BPS item. I think that's a struct. Yes, that is a struct. And we're getting the details from there by breaking it. We're specifically looking for can be stacked, and we're plugging it into a branch, and then we're putting the outputs into the output node. So can be stacked or can't be stacked. And so then depending on that, if it can be stacked, we're going to go ahead and add to stacked. We're going to get the item to be added, which is a struct. And then we're going to get the quantity, which is an integer. And in here, we're going to get the local. We have local variables here. We're going to get the local quantity remaining. We're going to create a for each loop from the inventory array, and we're going to check every element in there. We're going to get the array element. So we're going to loop the body. We're going to set the local array index. I believe we update that every time too. But we're going to set the local array index. We're going to use a branch to, well, we're going to break the array element here first, and we're going to use a branch to see if the item details names are equal to the item to be added name. If they are, we are going to set the array element from the inventory, the local array index. What are we setting it to? Here, we're going to get the quantity, and then we're going to get the local quantity remaining. We're going to add the quantity to that, and then we are going to plug that into divided by 99 and reset the local quantity remaining. Why are we doing that? Oh, to make sure, because we can make our stacks can go up to 99. Anything that's stackable can stack up to 99, and then it has to choose another slot. So that's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. And then we're checking to see if it is less than or equal to 0. If that's true, then we have the quantity. That's supposed to say quantity remaining, not whatever it says. But we have the quantity remaining 0. I'll fix that later. So that's add to stack. If quantity remaining is less than or equal to 0, then we will set quantity to 0, and we have a return node here. If it is false, then we check to see if inventory has space. Yeah, we're checking to see if we have enough slots, I believe here. We're checking the inventory, we're getting the length, we're checking the inventory size, and we're seeing if the length is less than the inventory size. That would mean that our inventory is full and we do not have space. So if we do not have space, then we set the quantity remaining to whatever this is, if it's not 0, and we return node. If it does have space, yeah, so that's if it does not have space. If it does have space, we are getting the item to be added, the quantity to be added. We're going to break, we're going to make an inventory slot, and then we're going to get the inventory array, and we're going to use an add to array or add item to array. Then we're going to return the node, and we're going to check successful. Here, if it cannot be stacked, but the inventory does have space, we are going to get the item to be added, the quantity. We're going to make an inventory slot, and we're going to add it to the inventory. So yeah, this is for non-stackable items, but it does have space. And then if it doesn't have space and it's non-stackable, then we're just going to go ahead and say it was not successful, and we're going to update the quantity. Query inventory. So we have query inventory here, which basically we can use to just check what's in the inventory. Inventory for each loop. We're just going to break the slot here. We're going to, again, check to see if the names are the same. We're going to use a branch to check if they are. If they are, we're going to set the, oh, okay, so that's what this is for. This is checking to see if what the local running quantity is and stuff. So this is going to get the quantity, and then it's going to add the local running quantity to it, and it's going to set that. So I believe this is just to check what's actually in your inventory before doing some of the other formulas. And then inventory has space, which is not that different to can be stacked. Next, we have the BP NPC parent. Once the parent is interacted with, we're going to disable the input on the player character and controller. Then we're going to create a widget. We're going to set the name and title here of the NPC that we're interacting with. We're going to set up their UI here. Actually, we're setting up their widget here. I think we're just creating a reference to the widget itself here. We're going to add it to viewport. And then here we are going to set view target with blend. We're getting the player controller. And I think we're setting the camera to self, so to the parent itself with a new camera. We're going to show the mouse cursor so the player can click on things. We're going to get our character and we're going to hide it so that way it's not in the way of the camera. We get game mode here and... Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're getting game mode here. We're casting to it and we're getting it as a reference here. And then we're just going to basically... hide the heads up display. So anytime we talk to the NPC, we're not seeing our HUD at the same time. So that's what that's doing. And then here, the NPC shopkeeper. Oh, there's more code down there. I must have missed that. So here we are at the beginning of play. We're getting the AC inventory component that we looked at earlier right here. And then we're just going to add to inventory this function here. And we actually looked at that already. That was in the AC inventory itself. So next, here, I don't know why I didn't comment it. We're going to do it on event interact. We're going to call the parent, which is going to do the same thing as this. But for this, the difference is we're going to use a shop widget, and we're going to change the default intro text here so that they greet you. And then we have the NPC UI that we were mentioning earlier or referencing earlier. And we're going to use that to get the control panel, and we're going to add that child to the canvas. So this is a reference to the UI, the control panel. We might look at that later because we're going to look at UIs. So we're going to add the child to canvas on the UI. We're adding the dialogue here. We're going to set the anchors. Looks like we're setting maximum anchors here. I don't exactly remember. I know that has to do with where it's placed on the viewport, like on the screen, but I don't exactly remember why we're setting anchors here. I think it's to set this in the correct position. And then we're going to set offsets here just to spread things out a bit. I actually need to revisit this and find out what we're doing here. Let's see. And then we come over here, and this is the one that is commented. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. So we had to create two of them because I wanted them to work a little bit differently. I think this one has its own widget class. That's why. Yeah, so I had to do that. All right. So the next thing, let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into the widgets. Okay, so I should have cleaned this up. I didn't clean these up. I thought I cleaned everything up. I guess I didn't clean up the widgets. So next we have the widgets. Right here is the widget for the NPC menu. We have the text block, we have their title here, and we have their, we have their name here and their title here. Click to leave widget and button. And then over here, I probably should have organized this better, but we can go ahead and go through it. All right, so here we're gonna on event construct. So once the event builds itself. Read the value of variable open UI. Where's that? Animations, open UI. Oh, okay, so it's a widget animation. You know what? I have not used those enough, so I need to practice with those more. But we have that going on here, which I believe is the animation itself. So this is just a reference, and then we're playing that animation. We're going to get the player controller here. We're going to show the mouse cursor. We're going to turn it off. Then we're going to set game mode, or set to game NUI. I actually don't know why we're hiding the mouse cursor there. I'd have to look back into that. But here we're getting the control panel again, and we're getting the player controller, and we're going to focus on the control panel widget. And then here we're just going to set the text for NPC name text, NPC name, NPC title text, and NPC title. If we move on to the content shop, so this is the actual items that are in the shop. There's actually not a lot here. So for this, we're actually just going to event construct, intro dialog, text, and intro dialog and set text. So we're just going to set the text for both of these, for this and this here. We're not even setting the image. Okay, so that's something that it looks like I didn't finish because we're not even setting the image there. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, so no, for this, we're just setting the text for intro dialog and text. That's it. So we're actually just setting this part up here. And then over here, we are setting the actual thumbnail here on event construct. We're setting the thumbnail set brush from texture. This is the reference right here, the texture. And then we're updating the item name text and the cost text. And then down here on clicked, so this is when a player clicks the button. Yeah, when they click this button. We're going to cast to first person character. We're going to get the currency and tickets. And we're going to see if it's greater or equal to 50. If it is, we're going to go ahead and get the data table row here. And we're looking for item 0, which is the key. And we're going to add that to the player's inventory. And then over here, we're just subtracting the 50 tickets from our cost if all this passes. And we're resetting it so that way we know how much, or so that way the player's currency amount updates. Here we're getting a reference to the player. We're checking to see if they have the, we're setting it to has key to true now. So that way they can walk through the locked door. And then we're removing the button from the parent. So that way the player doesn't keep clicking on it. After that, we have the NPC content for the burger, which I believe is relatively the same. I think the only real differences here are some differences like, you know, the fact that there's no currency here or the fact that there's no cost. This is exactly the same. This is different. This is almost the same. The only difference here is that instead of checking, instead of checking the currency is, you know, to see if their currency tickets are greater than or equal to 50, we're checking to see if the player has Abigail. And Abigail is a cheeseburger that you can find and return to her significant other. If you do have Abigail and you talked to the burger, her significant other, then you will come down here and you'll be rewarded with 25 tickets. And then currency update. And then this is just to update the amount of tickets that you get and then the amount of coins that you get because you got to update them all together. And then spawn actor, BP, Abigail static. So this is just to spawn the mesh itself, the actor. So that way it appears next to the significant other or the other cheeseburger when you do return her. Get player character, cast for, and then we're just going to set returned Abigail to true. This is in order to track the data at the end to see if the player actually did do that. And then if false, he spits out a string that says, do not toy with a man's beefy heart. Come back once you found her. That could be UI, but it is string for now. Let's continue on. I also want to take a quick look at something that I learned a lot more about this month, which is structures. And I have a couple structures here. Here's for my currency. We got the name, the tag, and the amount. So that's for tickets and coins. And then we have the BPS inventory slot. That's the inventory slot structure. So it basically has the item's details and the quantity. And then here we have the actual item details. So the item details is inside the item details is this, which has the name, description, thumbnail, can be stacked, category, rarity, and cost. And then here you can see everything, and we can go ahead and set, our textures, and we can set up everything ahead of time. And we also have different variables here. We have our database that we looked at earlier. We have our item database here, which is not too complicated. There's only a couple things here. Light ammo is actually not being used right now, but we could always add more things using that. And then we have our item category enum, which I believe just decides what type of item it is. Again, not really being used here, but it is there. Next, let's talk about, so we can go ahead and talk about our currency, or no, I'm sorry, our containers right now. So our trash bins and our games, stuff like that. So the containers, the trash bin, in event interact with parent, we're getting has been looted already. If that's true, then we're going to go up to here. We're going to say the container is empty. Oh no, we're going to ask if the container is empty. If that's true, we're just going to put a print string up that says container is empty. If this is not true, we are going to come down here. We're going to get the data table, row names, and we're going to get the last index. Then we're going to get a random integer from 0 to whatever the last index is, which in this case, I believe it is 2. Or no, sorry, 1, 0 and 1. Here we're just setting the row name. And then here we are using that as a reference. Well, we have a sequence here too, actually. So the first thing we're doing is we're getting the row name as a reference. And then we are going to get the actor transform for the container. And we're going to spawn a coin. Then we're going to go ahead and see, is the row name equal to 0, 1? So basically, did we spawn a coin, which we know we did? And if so, actually, that's kind of redundant now that I think about it. Yeah, that's kind of redundant, because we already know we're spawning a coin. So I don't know why this is even here. But after that, we're going to go ahead and get the coin counter. We're going to add 1 to it, and we're going to set that. Then we're going to check to see if the coin counter is equal to the coin drop limit. And if it is, then we're going to say that the container is empty. So this is basically to prevent the player from looting indefinitely. And then down here, we're doing the exact same thing, but with the tickets. So literally the exact same thing, but with the tickets. So the other thing I forgot to mention is that if we go here and we say bin looted already, and then we go false, we're actually going to get the player character, cast a first person character, and we're going to see how many, we're going to get how many bins have been looted, and then we're going to add 1 to that, and we're going to set that. And that's so that way at the end of the level, we can check to see how many bins the player has actually looted. And not just counting, how many times they looted, but rather how many they looted. Because immediately after we do this once, we're going to set bin looted already to true. And then that way over here, the next time they interact, it's going to go fire off this. And it's still going to loot it, but it's not going to count it's not going to count it for the end. So that way it doesn't stack up and pile up. Now for the game parent, we're doing pretty similarly, but instead we're going to check to see if the game is in play. This is not for the end. This is just so that the player does not keep putting coins in while it's still doing its thing. If it's true, we're going to say game is already playing. If it's false, we're going to get the player character, and then we're going to set that so we have a reference. Then we are going to get the currency coins from that, and we're going to see if they're greater than or equal to the cost of play. If that is true, then the game will play. If it is not true, then we'll say you need more coins. We're also then going, if true, we're going to say game is in play, and that will prevent the player from putting more coins in while it's in action. We're going to subtract the cost to play from their currency, and we're going to update it. Then we are going to update both the coins and the tickets in the UI. Next, we are going to start a for loop here that's going to run between minimum tickets 1 and maximum tickets 1. So it starts at 1, and then it's random between 2 and 3. So it can go 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, and it's going to loop this body here that many times. And during that, it's getting the index of 1, which is the ticket. And then here, we're just going to spawn that on the actor itself. And then we have a delay, so that way there's a little bit of time between ticket spawning, and then we go into the next one. After this first part of the sequence, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to go to winnings announced, and we're going to print a string that just says how many tickets the player won. So yeah, we have you won blank tickets. Once the for loop is completed, we're going to have another delay, and we're going to set game in play to false. We're going to set winnings announced to false because we only want this to fire once. We don't want it to fire every time it spits out a ticket. We only want it to fire once and then spit out 3 tickets or whatever, and then the game ends. And then here we're going to say game is ended. So for the locked door, we have event interact with. We're going to cast to the player character. We're going to check to see if they have the key. If true, we are using a flip-flop here to open and close the door. Here's the door track. We're lerping between the closed angle and the open angle. And then we're plugging that into the new rotation for set rotation, or set relative rotation. And then if false, we have a print string there. So the very last thing is the item pickup. So here we have event begin play. And then we're going to add an impulse here, and we're getting a random unit vector. So we're getting a random unit vector, and we're adding some multiplication to it. And then this is how much we want. We want to add that. We want to add the z value, which is 0, to this, so we can customize it. This is, I think, I think that's just default. And then we're adding that into the make vector, and we're adding that into the impulse so that it knows what direction it wants to shoot. Then we're getting the item row name. We're plugging that into the data table here, and we're getting the item from that, and we're setting it as a reference. Here in event interact with, there's a parent, which we probably went over already then. And then we're gonna and then here we got an event interact with. We get the parent that we're getting. We're gonna get the player character. We're gonna get the total tickets collected, and we're gonna add 1 to that, and we're gonna set that. And then this is for tracking at the end of the game. We're using this to show how many total tickets the player has collected throughout their entire game. So here we got the BP item pickup at the beginning of play. We are just going to have a random unit vector here, and we're going to multiply that by 2000, 2000 on the X and Y axis. And then for the Z, we're actually going to multiply by 8,000, or we're adding 8,000 in there, and then multiplying that by that. And then we're going to make a new vector, and we're going to add that into the impulse, so that way we can control what direction it shoots out in. Then we're going to get the data row table, or the data table row, I'm sorry. And specifically, this doesn't actually say, what are we looking for here to pick up? Oh, this is just whatever it is. Okay. And then we're going to set that as a reference. Event interact with, we're going to get the player character. We're going to cast to the first person character. Again, we're going to get the item row name. So I think this is when you pick up the item. Yeah, and this is just the item on begin play. So when the item spawns, if it shoots out of the dummy, that's what this is about. It's launching out of the dummy. And then this is just if you actually pick up a coin or a ticket or an item, it's going to get your inventory output. It's going to get the amount of that you're collecting, and then it's going to add it into your inventory, and it's going to destroy itself after that. So Abigail pickup, I believe, does the same thing, except that we didn't want her launching around and getting the impulse. So we overrode the begin play here. Event interact is exactly the same, so we don't really need to go over that. Well, the only difference here is that we're setting has Abigail to true. Currency pickup, I believe, works pretty much the same. A lot of these work very much the same. And the only reason that they have their own blueprints is because we couldn't get them to work with data tables. So we had to change some things up. And I think the only difference here is that we're looking for the player tag coin or ticket. Yeah, and then we're updating the UI based on whether or not the player picked up coins or the player picked up tickets. And then we're destroying the actor. Here, literally the exact same thing. No. That's currency pickup, and then this is the actual coin. So this is actually a child class of currency pickup. I think the main difference is the launch on spawn. I think that was really all we changed, and then the data table, of course. Pretty much everything else is mostly the same though here. Yeah, same here. But that is my level. That is all the mechanics. I probably didn't upload the full version for the class because it was like 50 minutes long, but I will have the full version on my channel. Thank you for watching. My name has been Andrew Welch. Shout out to Ryan Laley for the tutorials, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. Oh shit, did I not set this up? Okay, well, I didn't set these up, but whatever.